Hello, everyone. Get this game going. Adventure. Wait, am I starting all over? Did it not save my progress from the last time I played this? I'm gonna be so upset.
Damn, bro. That's fucked.
Well, I guess we'll see. Um, but anyway, uh, hi. Thank you for it is starting all over. Yup, that's fine. It's okay. It's all right, you know? I guess the prologue doesn't let you save your progress. Either that or I wasn't paying attention.
Damn. Well, that's
So,
okay.
it's fine. It's fine. We'll try our best. Okay. So let's go ahead and move over here. Pan the mouse. Zoom in. Gonna build the hostel. Okay. So it is our weekly book club. And today is Juneteenth. And if the American education system failed you, like it did me, uh, Juneteenth is a holiday celebrating the um, effective end of slavery in the United States. It took a whole 2.5 years after the Emancipation Proclamation was signed to actually make it to Texas and end slavery. Not sure why it took that long, but like even I feel like even in that time, like I understand that they didn't have cars or trains or anything like that. I feel like even in that time, it shouldn't have taken that long.
No, we just didn't want to do it.
But anyway, so in honor of, well, partially also in honor of Juneteenth, I want to talk about what the heck just happened.
What'd you do?
Sorry, things were being weird on my end. But I want to talk about a book called The Deep by Rivers Solomon. And before I go through and give the whole summary of the book, I want to give background because the inception of this book, to me, is really interesting and kind of different from any other book that I've really read.
It's super
So
fucking cool.
it's yeah, I think it's super cool. In what was it, like the 70s or 80s?
Let me
Can you
let
double
me
check me on
Drex.
that?
Yeah, no, I'm literally. I was like, I should have
Um,
pulled up Drexia.
a techno electro duo comprised of
69,
69.
1969, 2002.
Nice.
Nice.
Um, I wasn't making a stupid joke there, but um, composed of James Stinson and Gerald Donald. Um, through their whole discography, honestly, um, started a mythology that I'll read to you from the afterword of the book.
I was about to
Um,
say, if you wanted me to like pull that up, I got that.
yeah, I have it pulled up on my phone, so um, could it be possible for humans to breathe underwater? A fetus in its mother's womb is certainly alive in an aquatic environment. During the greatest Holocaust the world has ever known, pregnant America bound African slaves were thrown overboard by the thousands during labor for being sick and disruptive cargo. Is it possible that they could have given birth at sea to babies that never needed air? Are Drexians water breathing, aquatically mutated descendants of those unfortunate victims of human greed? Have they been spared by God to teach us or terrorize us? Um, and I did listen to a couple songs from Drexia. I really enjoy it. It is, like I said, techno, um, you know, like 60s, 70s techno. Um, but I really enjoyed it. I think it's really good music. And through like the minimal lyrics in their songs and also like the vinyl, like the sleeves and cover art for their albums, they kind of created this mythology. And then when did Clipping write their song? I want to say not that long ago, like
Let's see.
20.
I can do Clipping. What was it? 2017?
So okay, yeah. So in 2017, a group called Clipping released a song called "The Deep," which is also a great song. We listened to that one. I really enjoyed that song. And they sort of expanded on this mythology of a species, like a whole civilization underwater, and the idea that they would have like yearly like remembrances to sorry, hold on, to like remember their history, basically, like where their civilization started and came from.
Oh shit.
And so then sort of, I don't know if it was written alongside the song or if it was more like inspired by the song. But either way, it was 2019 that this book came out, right?
Yes. I don't think they talk about let's see.
No. I messed up. Can I move
Without
this?
permission and support of Clipping to use their profoundly powerful sound, the deepest text would not exist. Yeah, they just talk about, in their acknowledgments, they just give credit that they got permission and support of Clipping to use their the stuff.
Okay, yeah.
That the text would not exist, but I don't know if this was also written within that same time.
Okay.
But
yeah.
But the way that they has contributed their misheard was to the chain, filling out our song's narrative. They have expanded on it. So we conceived it, now we learned. Yeah, no, they don't really specify. At least not in the book.
Okay. But yeah, so in 2019, River Solomon published this book called The Deep, that is centered around the current historian of the Wajinru, which is the civilization underwater. Sorry, I need to lower the volume on this game because it's distracting
Oh, so
me.
just for the people who don't want spoilers.
Oh, yeah.
To just from the get-go, the book is very good. You should listen to it, and listening to it is very good because
yes.
knowing how to pronounce things, very great. But also it is narrated by David Diggs, who is part of Clipping. And it is just very good.
It is, yes. I really enjoyed it. Again, spoiler alert, if you don't want spoilers,
you might want to stop.
The book club streams aren't for you. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. But
But anyway, so the novel, well, it's really more of a novella. It's only it's less than 200 pages.
Yeah.
Centers around the current historian of the Wajinru Yetu. And it starts with her mom, like, kind of saving her from sharks.
Her Amaba.
Her Amaba. And we very quickly learn that Yetu is, like, not, like, she... So because she holds the memories of the Wajinru, like, all of the memories of their entire species. And we learn that the rest of the Wajinru, outside of this once a year remembrance, don't really have very long memories, like not more than a month or so. And I feel like it's kind of, I mean, to me it very much from the beginning seemed like, oh, these people have, like, gone through such horrible trauma as, like, a whole species that, like, it's too painful for like, most of them to remember. So they pick one person to hold all of the memories, and then once a year the historian who holds all the memories will in a ceremony release the memories to the rest of the Wajinru. And Yetu is, like, she struggles with staying in the present because she has all of these memories of, like, from their ancestors. So she struggles with, like, staying present. She also, to me, seems very much like on the autism spectrum. She gets sensory overload very easily. And, like, is just, like, not, like, she's, I don't know. I can't always pinpoint why a character, like, reads a certain way to me. But, like, I definitely feel like Yetu is on the spectrum.
Very neurodivergent.
Very neurodivergent. Oh, sorry, I'm just not paying attention to this game. That's fine. So anyway, Yetu's Amaba saves her from the sharks and tells her that the remembrance is overdue by, like, 3 months. And so all of the other Wajinru are getting very, like, antsy and kind of, like, they're not doing well because they're getting to a point where they don't have a sense of, like, who they are and, like, where they come from, because it's been so long since they've, you know, experienced the memories. So they go to the sacred waters where they hold the remembrance every year, and the other Wajinru are setting up what they call the womb, and it's just this big, like, mud bubble, I guess, to protect them and to protect the ocean from them during the remembrance. Because with, you know, the remembrance, the Wajinru are very, like, attuned to like, electrical pulses within the ocean. And so um this was a bad place to put this. I'm sorry. Give me 1 second. um but so they build this, you know, encasing for them to all enter to, you know, go through the remembrance. Um, and Yetu is given a gift by, his name is Nanenyo. And I don't quite know what you would call the relationship between them. He's like, because he's not really a mentor. I guess like protector is the best word that I could think of. But he gives her a like comb that they found in the in like the stomach of
a shark.
And it was a comb of the foremothers, who are the African women that were tossed overboard for being disruptive cargo.
Is the shark like the oldest? Like, is that?
It's
sorry. It's not as important. Like, but like it really isn't like super important to the story. But I think she just kind of focuses a lot on it. That it really.
Yeah, it's so it's like it is a pretty old shark, right? Like
that's I'm trying to like find it. Siblings. Yes. It was found here near the sacred waters, lodged inside the skull of a two-legged surface dweller, which is inside the belly of Anyetike.
Yeah.
If you hadn't thought of that shark in some time, Anyetike had only died last year, but had learned first was Jinru 600 years ago. Her age and infamy had earned her an honor bestowed on most sea creatures.
Gotcha.
Because she's a frilled shark.
Okay.
By the way, I don't know if you know what that looks like.
I don't actually.
Horrifying creature. I was like, oh, let me look at what this shark looks like. Man,
terrifying.
Like I love sharks, but damn. Okay, that's one. Okay, the next one's the same. Okay.
So, when she receives this comb, like she kind of goes through her memories, and like tries to find what has she ever found a similar object, or you know, has anyone ever found a similar object? And we see like a very young Wajinru retrieving a comb from a two-leg. Sorry, I should have stuck with the Chilquarium. This game is taking too much of my attention.
Just go back to Chilquarium. It's fine.
Yeah, but then I have to like mess around with stuff. It's fine. So you good?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Horrifying creatures.
Listen.
Those teeth,
okay, now I have to Google it. What do they look like?
Bro, bad to look at.
Well, I'm gonna look at it.
Yeah. Listen, I don't want to be like hating on these majestic sea creatures, but also bad to look at.
Does it not just look like a shark with frills?
No, you just wait.
Oh,
Yeah.
very bad to look at. I hate
told you.
that.
told you.
Horrible. Bad to look at. Anyway.
I told you.
Did we research the kitchen? We're doing that now. So, experiencing this remembering kind of gives us another, like, view of Yetu and how she is sort of, like, very easily consumed by the memories. Like, she will... The best word I can come up with is dissociate. And just be fully in the memory. She loses, like, several hours when she has this memory with the comb. And, you know, we get to see a little bit more of, like, Yetu and Amaba's, like, relationship. Which is not, like, the best relationship, but it is very, like, Amaba clearly cares for Yetu, but, like, does not understand her, which, you know, fair. I mean, like, Yetu is, like, saddled with the memories of their entire species, and Amaba has a memory of, like, a month. But so eventually the womb is constructed and they go in and start the remembering. And it is one of the relationships of all time. Yes, true. So they start the remembering, and Yetu talks about how, like, they used to be sung. Like, the historians used to, like, sing and perform during the remembrances, and how she is glad that they don't do that anymore, because the way that she experiences these memories is, like, she says, like, as screams. Which I thought was a really interesting, like, thing, and I don't know if River Solomon meant to, like, was kind of going for this when they wrote it, but, like, it is very interesting to me that, like, the idea for this kind of mythology started as songs, and how it has developed into this, like, new thing. I think they're pescatarian. The griffin is a pescatarian. But yeah, so they go and start the remembrances, and it starts when, so, like, Yetu is trying to, like, guide the rest of the Wajinru through the events in these memories and, like, help them kind of navigate it. But at the same time, Yetu feels like she's losing herself. Like, she's just a, like, empty vessel for the memories of their ancestors, and, like, not, like, she's losing who she is. And so she decides to, like, run away in the middle of the remembrance after she has released all of the memories to the other Wajinru. And, like, swim as far away as she can. And I think, does she end up getting hurt?
She's already hurt. She never fully healed from...
Oh, from the sharks?
From the sharks. And, like, also not taking care of herself, because she, like, talks about how, like, Because the reason she runs away is because she's like, I will not survive another retaking of these memories. Like, I won't live. Like, and it's not like, getting ahead of myself is like, it's not fair that I want to live. But she, like, never, she's very malnourished and barely keep anything down before the remembrance started. And so she was already not doing great. And then, like, she just made the journey to just get as far away and never, like, and didn't stop to, like, hunt or anything. So she just
Yeah. Got it.
that she didn't really, like, it doesn't say that she got, like, she never, like, healed, so she was deteriorating.
Gotcha. Yeah. And so then the book starts to change. Like, each chapter, it'll go back and forth.
Is it each chapter?
I thought it was, but I could be wrong. I was listening to it and not, like... We all know how my auditory processing is.
Yeah, no, because once you, like, mentioned it, reading it, I was like, mentioned it, and I was like, yeah, my brain didn't fucking register that. Like, I just, like, I don't think my brain really read the, like, changes. Hold on, let's see.
That's fair.
No, it's not every chapter, but there are
Okay.
a couple of chapters in the book. Yes, yeah, but it's not every chapter.
Okay, yeah. So, there are some chapters, it'll kind of switch back and forth, where, we start with Yetu telling the story, and it's, is it in first person?
No. The book, no.
Okay, yeah. So, but
The
it's,
book is not.
it starts following Yetu, and then it's interspersed with these chapters that are written in first person, but a collective first person. So, like, saying we and I, or sorry, we and us. And telling the stories of the ancestors' memories. So, like, what the rest of the Wajinru are experiencing in the remembrance. So we see the history of the Wajinru interspersed with Yetu, like, escaping, and so one of the things I find really interesting is that the first time that we get that, like, collective first person bit is a Wajinru saving a two-leg. And, like, taking her to a island, and, like, trying to help her, like, bring her fish to eat and stuff like that, and then, like, learning to communicate with her. Kameko, please.
Damn.
I guess yes, technically, like warrior cats. So they, like, learn to communicate with one another, and eventually the two-leg decides, which I don't remember if we learn her name. I feel like we do.
Yes,
Waj.
Waj.
Yes. Eventually Waj builds a boat and is planning to sail back to, where she originally lived. Which I feel kind of dumb that I didn't, like, think about this when I first read it, but, like, like, thinking about it more, like, it seems clear to me that, like, Waj was taken aboard a slave ship.
Yeah.
And either, like, escaped and like jumped overboard or was like
Mhm.
thrown overboard. But there's no
Yeah.
mention of her being pregnant, so I don't think she was thrown overboard. I think
Mhm.
she escaped.
Yeah.
Um, but
Yeah.
eventually Waj leaves and tells the Wajinru not to follow her, which made me very sad because I was like, they're cute together. Um,
I
but
honestly wondered about that. Not to derail, but like
mhm,
I wondered about that because she tells her she's like, um, where is this? No, this is when she, um, we must be where we must each be where we belong.
mhm,
She says, "What is belonging where loneliness ends?" Um, but she's like, "Don't follow me." And I'm like, did you tell her that? Like, why? Because like at first I was like, oh, because like mermaid lore is just like, oh, your people are just gonna like take advantage, right? Like the whole, which granted, they don't really specify that they are like quote unquote mermaids, but that is, based on the cover of the book, they are these like half human, half like fish, like type of creatures, right?
mhm.
A little bit more fish like than any or like sea creature like than anything, but like what was the implication there? Were you trying to say like just like, oh, she knew what they would do and she's like, don't follow me to like save her? Or did you
Mhm.
just like, I don't want the responsibility of this? Or like it just never, it just made me curious, like again, not important, but
Yeah, and
I
it's
was
never
like,
really explained or like
explain. No,
explored.
no.
Um, and but so because of Waj's leaving, the Wajinru
Oh shit.
starts to feel very lonely and like wants to find companionship, and so eventually like through I don't I don't remember the exact events,
Of what?
but so like of finding the other like Wajinru. Was the first other
So
Wajinru the like children that the whale brought to her or brought to
yes,
them? Okay,
yes,
yeah.
because she gets, I don't know if you want to say this now, but she gets named. And
Oh,
that kind of
yes.
becomes the name of, because the Wajinru aren't named Wajinru until later.
Mhm.
This Wajinru gets called Zoti Aleyu, which is
Mhm.
like strange fish in Waj's language.
Mhm.
Um, so then Zoti, um, never even find that yet. Um, they like dive deep into this and they find a whale and the whale has more of them children inside its mouth.
Yes. Um
I have my
and
bookmark. There it is.
but so what I also find really interesting is after we see Zoti meet Waj, like then we see Yetu having kind of washed ashore and encountering other two legs, and one of which is like, hey, she's alive, like we should try to help, and then starts bringing her like food, um which we find out was food that was caught by someone else, um or like brought by someone else, and gosh,
Hmm.
sorry, my memory is like
Who are you
what
trying to
was
think
her
of?
name?
Who, the one who was catching the fish and like
Yes.
Uri? I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right because it's OORI.
Okay.
So it's like Uri.
Yes. Um But so we see like, all right, the easiest way for some, my brain doesn't want to go back and forth, so I'm gonna take you through the history first, the history memories we see, and then I'll take you through Yetu's like journey.
I feel like because the book itself doesn't like do that in between the chapters. You finish the memory, and then
Well, but you don't. So you finish Zoti's memory,
yeah,
but then it goes
but
back to Yetu before it goes to Basha's memory.
yes, but there is still so much more of Zoti.
Right. Here's
Like,
the issue. My brain is like trying to go back and forth, and so I can't remember the order
okay,
that we're going back and forth, which is why I'm saying we're just going to go through all of the history before we go
so
to
we're gonna okay, so hold on.
Yetu.
Okay, so I have this is Yetu's chapter. Okay, let me see if I can find Basha's. That's Uri. That's still. Wait. No, this isn't technically history. So there is kind of some of like Yetu's like memories in here
Hmm.
that happened, but I'm trying to find Basha's. That's still more Yetu. Mm, hold on. Okay, yeah, this is the Basha chapter. Okay,
Um,
just I need to like mark it so that like I know where.
that's fair. So, uh, Zoti like gets these other children from the whale and like realizes that there must be more. And so she, takes care of them and starts trying to find more Wajinru. Which I don't think they're called that yet, even at this point.
No, she calls him Zoti.
Um,
Like like she's like we mourn for every Zoti Aleyu.
mhm. Um, and so over time amasses this like large group that like basically creates a civilization. Um, and eventually, I could be skipping important things. If I am, please tell me. But
No, like
go ahead.
yeah. No, it's just like, she kind of like goes into detail like the kiddos and stuff, but like for the most part it's like this is keep finding so many more um and we basically build
Mhm.
a community and she kind of becomes a queen.
Okay, yeah. Um, and
And that's
then
how that's how
no,
like
you're good.
the title of historian comes to be because she's one of the eldest. We know what most others do not. For that, they call us.
Yeah. You also, by the way, you keep cutting out a little bit. I don't know
Oh
if
shit.
that's coming through on the stream, but at least on my end, it's.
Mm.
Um,
Is it better now?
I think so. Yeah.
Mm. Let's hope that works. Fucking Discord.
You're good.
Mm-hmm. But yes,
So
go on.
eventually she is curious. Like she gets curious about kind of where these Zotialeu are coming from. Like how are they being created? And so she goes off in search of answers and finds comes across a slave ship and watches a woman be thrown overboard. A woman who's clearly pregnant, and the woman drowns, but after she drowns, the like, the fetus in her stomach like starts to move, like it is trying to get out. And so Zoti like, tries to help, um because she's like, oh, maybe like I can save the baby, like, and get it to air, whatever. um and witnesses a Zoti Aleu being born as, a Zoti Aleu. So the idea is that, like, in that moment when the mother was thrown overboard into the water, like, some magic from the ocean transformed the baby in the womb into a creature that could survive underwater. Um, and so having learned this, Zoti is like, I can't ever tell anyone the truth. Like, I can't. The pain of this is so bad that I can't give that pain to anyone else. And that is sort of like the impetus I feel for like the historian position like being created, and this like, a person who has to hold all of these memories and all of that hurt, so that the rest of them don't have to feel it.
So,
Yes.
so yeah, like that is what they do, but when towards the end they like, talk about, Zoti talks about how they try not to linger on the horrors of like, what they've seen and like their origins, and at times they like did more, they like followed ships, and that is how they like were able to save so many. But I think it's very interesting to point out that they, she says, we never wanted our people hindered for the we have known over years. When others came to us desperate to talk about it, we encouraged them to forget, focus on what we have together here now. And I think that that's interesting because that it, the historian is like keeping all these things, but like Zoti took that upon herself to just be like, no, like, and like obviously trauma response, right? But it's also just like, I find that so interesting that like there was a time when these people were like, let's talk about this. I want to know more. I want to know this information. And Zoti was like, no, you don't need to know that.
Yeah. I sort of like kind of remember that, but forgot it a little bit. I do think that is very interesting of like you said, like a trauma response of like, oh, this is horrible. I don't want anyone else to feel this. And so like, you don't even need to think about it. Don't worry about it. Like,
yeah. And not all could manage it, and they required extra help to let go of those terrible memories into their minds and searched, taking away that hurtful moment found. And I think that's also very interesting because, like, they took the, later on they talk about like the different abilities that the Wajinru have, and do all of the Wajinru have that ability to just take away the memory, or is that only a historian?
Well, that's okay. So that is really interesting. I do think that like, I don't necessarily think all of them have it, but I do think that some are more able to do it than, so like Nenenyo is not a historian, but he does have a really good like command of the like electrical forces that the historian uses to like gather memories and like, share them. So I think I think in theory any Wajinru could do it.
Yeah.
But in practice, not all of them have the skill to like actually do it.
Yeah. But moving on.
But yeah.
Am I still cutting out?
Sometimes, but it's not as bad as it was, I don't think.
Okay. God damn it.
What can I build? Oh, all of these things. Great.
Hopefully,
Anyway.
if I stop, hopefully that will help.
Hey, can you, like, play with the ball?
No.
Okay.
But yeah, go on.
Were there any other like ancestor memories, or did it go from Zoti to Basha?
No, it just goes from Zoti to Basha.
Okay.
So, I mean, I don't know if you were gonna finish Zoti's.
What else happens?
So with in Zoti's you know, when when she's talking about all this, Aj, which is the very first Zoti Aleyu that she helped be born,
Mm-hmm.
asks for, you know, a story.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, she's like, I will pass on to you like all of the, but you must promise like never to like, you know,
Burden
like,
others
yes,
with it.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so she tells Aj all of the, you know, all of the memories that she has
Mm-hmm.
collected. And because there are so many of them, she says that they can hardly be called strange fish anymore, which is when the name Wajinru comes in. Because the name Waj means chorus
Mm-hmm.
or song, and she says that they are a whole chorus of the deep. So therefore, Wajinru.
Yes.
And then it goes into a bunch of Zoti's, Yetu's perspective, and then Basha's in here, and then back to Yetu.
Okay.
Yeah, so Basha's the only one. Yeah.
Got it. And with Basha is when they sort of discover, or during Basha's time, which Basha is the historian right before Yetu. And during his life is when, like, a lot of Wajinru are being, like, killed by these, like, big explosions. And they're not really sure, like, what's causing them. Except Basha is like, I have seen through, you know, someone's memories, like, this. It's essentially a submarine, I'm pretty sure, right?
So they never like really like say what it is, but the way that they described it, especially like the explosions, I thought it was. I pictured it more like a U-boat
Okay, yeah.
rather than just like a single submarine. Like I was just
Mhm.
like, oh, they have like weapons and shit in
Yeah.
here, not just like an explorer boat. Technically, still a sub, but whatever.
And okay, so I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah.
I listened to this book one time, on a plane. So I don't have, like, the best, like, grasp and recall of it.
That's why you got me.
But so were the two legs, like, looking for Wajinru, or was it just like they were looking for something else that was in the deep?
They were looking for something else that was in the deep, and they found the Wajinru.
Okay, yes.
And they just keep killing the Wajinru to try and get to what they want, which is never specified.
Okay, yes. But Basha, who has seen this through, I don't know if he ever saw it himself or just through people's memories. But he is like, we need to go on the offensive. like our people are being killed. We need to deal with these two legs before they kill all of us. And the like council doesn't want to believe him, like doesn't want to believe that the two legs are like killing them, and are basically like, oh, you're just making this up because you want like war and violence and whatever. And again, could be leaving things out, but
I mean, there's like more stuff, but I think like for the sake of the story, I think
Mhm.
that's what we're doing right now.
Yeah,
That's pretty
that's
much it.
but so eventually Basha ends up like killing the main council guy, right?
Yeah.
And like
There's a new.
and is basically like, I'm the king now. Like I
Yeah,
am
literally.
the one in charge.
No, he
Uh
doesn't even kill. Like, hold on.
he doesn't kill all of the council. It's just
No, no,
one
no, no, no.
dude, right?
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that he's not even. I
Like he
don't.
doesn't
To
actually
me,
kill him.
no, he kills him. I just can't remember if he's actually part of the council. So, like when I was, it didn't really seem like he was.
Oh, okay.
But maybe he is. He's just a guy that just constantly is just like, hey, Basha, we need your knowledge, and it's like, bro, you don't give a shit. He just asks us like stupid ass questions, and he wants to like see himself as like better. Oh no, it says he is the closest person Wajin would have to.
Okay.
His made up council agrees with whatever he. Yes, but yeah, no,
Got it.
he like ends up killing. He's like, there's been a change in the regime, and I
Yeah.
love that. I love that sentence so much.
There's a new king in town.
There's been a change in the regime. Okay.
But so he, takes over power and then kind of organizes the Wajinru to, like I said, they have these abilities with like electrical forces and whatnot, and also like kind of creating storms. And so through that, they, to my understanding, flood most of the world. And like sink ships and like destroy these like U-boats that are coming down.
I don't know. They don't really talk about like what they're just like it's the tidal wars. I really wish they had gone into that, but
I
also
know,
like
right?
the whole point. But like I also the whole point of this thing that they're doing with the deep is that like to expand on everything and nothing is canon. So I get it. People can expand on that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the tidal wars and but they do talk about how it's like this is only our first assault when he does that.
The reason that I say like to my understanding like flood the world is because like later when Yetu is talking to Ori, Ori is from a like land that has been like flooded and destroyed and no longer exists. And so I don't know if it was just like, oh, it was a small island and like global warming and like all that stuff, or if it was like a result of these tidal wars.
Yeah, that's fair.
But I think that's like kind of the end of Basha's story, right?
Yep, that's pretty much it. Like, yeah, there's like the like small little things with Ephraim and things like that, but that.
Oh yeah, that is the other thing that we learn. Apparently, historians aren't supposed to take
Lovers
like partners.
It is seen
like
as a distraction
lovers.
from the sacred task. Yeah.
But Basha said, "How about no?" And
Has a boyfriend.
has a boyfriend, and they're very cute together, and I love them.
Yeah. Also, he does talk about they what gifts of the deep they could steal from us.
Mm-hmm.
Below us, deep beneath the sand, there is a substance they crave. And I thought that that was just oil.
That's fair. That makes sense. I
Like
didn't
it,
think about that, but that absolutely makes sense.
yeah, I was like, it's their life force, their food. They feast on it like blood. And one of them asks, "What is it?" And they're like, "I know not its name, only that we are with it." And they would mine it from us like scavenger creatures picking up bones.
Yeah.
And like that. That's why I was like, "Oh, these are like."
It's always oil.
But yeah, so Basha basically is just like, y'all won't help me. I'm gonna kill this guy, kills him, and then proceeds to flood everything.
Mm-hmm. Um, so back with Yetu, America wants to know your location. America doesn't need to know my location. um, oh, gosh darn it. Hold on. Sorry. My mic is being weird. Um, so back with Yetu, like I said, she's like very weakened from not really eating or being able to like keep anything down before the remembrance and like the shark attack before the remembrance. Um
So
and then also like this crazy journey that she took, like just swimming as fast as she can, as far as she can. Um and she washes up on this beach, or like in this kind of like tide pool, I guess.
yeah, I didn't really understand where she's surrounded by rocks.
Yeah. Um so and Ori is someone who lives in the area and is like tries to help as many people as she can. It seems like she's like always doing things for other people, but also is like, other people don't need to do things for me. Like I'm pretty sure at one point, like uh the other girl that Yetu meets is like, yeah, one time I offered her this thing and she was like, why would you do that? Like, I can do it myself, it's fine.
Let's see, what's her name? Mm, Suka.
Suka.
Yeah, Suka is the one that Yetu talks to first.
Okay, yeah. But yeah, so she's like, I guess Suka's like, yeah, one time I offered
This
Ori
blanket.
a blanket, and she was like, why would I need, like, why? I can, like, I'm not a child. But at the same time is like constantly doing things for other people. And like, catching fish for Yetu and stuff like that. And so Yetu eventually starts like, Yetu like wants to meet Ori, and so she like, tries to wake up early when like the fish get left there so that she can like meet her, and finally she does. And Ori's like not interested in having a conversation. And it's just like, yeah, okay, bye. Which, like, so valid. I get it. Same, girl. But slowly, like, Ori and Yetu start to develop this, like, relationship. Like, they talk to each other for a while and, like, get to know each other and stuff like that. Gosh darn it. I have to upgrade this. upgrade this. Sorry, excuse me. And we learn, like I said, that Ori's like hometown, like where she comes from, like doesn't exist anymore. It was destroyed. And like her whole family died.
Like she's the last of her
Like,
people.
yeah. And so she has this like longing for like, you know, the traditions of her people and like where she comes from and stuff like that. And Yetu like fully just does not understand this, because she's like, I was basically just a vessel for you know, the memories of my people, and like it was, you know, I don't exist. Like I didn't exist because I just had to be the place where my, you know, people's memories lived. And this causes them to get into like this fight or whatever, and like Ori leaves and like doesn't come back for a while. Or doesn't, I don't, does she come back at all before Yetu leaves?
Yes.
Oh, she does?
Yes, she's only gone for 3 days.
Okay.
And then Yetu's like, bro, it's fucked that you would leave somebody that you're helping, or they're even like healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And she apologizes, but they don't really, you know, they don't really talk about the fact that they have these very differing opinions on their history, or like what history means to them.
But I do think that is like that conversation is sort of what makes Yetu like realize like I left my people, like I left them, and I didn't leave them in a good state. Like they are experiencing these memories that they're not equipped to experience without any guidance. And so she she notices that like the sea is like starting to churn, and like a storm is like starting to develop, which is like a clear sign that the Wajinru are in this like distressed state. So she decides to go back. And she's like, you know, I can go back and I can take the memories back. To save, you know, my people, and to save the, you know, the whole world, basically. Like the world will be destroyed from this storm if the Wajinru are left as they are. And so Yetu travels back to the womb. And, you know, all of the Wajinru are just kind of like wasting away, because it's been what, like 3 weeks?
Yes, 3 weeks.
And they haven't like come out of the remembrance. They haven't eaten, they haven't like slept, nothing. They've just been like experiencing these memories. And so Yetu starts to like take the memories back one by one. But her Amaba like sees her doing this and stops her, excuse me, because she, having now experienced this, like having these memories for just 3 weeks, like understands is starting to understand the like the burden that Yetu has had for her whole life.
Since she was 14.
Since she was 14.
And she's, I believe, in her like
She's like 34?
30.
She's in her 30s, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I think she mentions it.
Um, but so she...
Oh my God, Lucas.
What's he doing?
He's sniffing around. I think he wants to get out of the bedroom.
Mm.
Can't let me have one dream piece.
Nope,
So,
never. Oh no.
what did you do?
No, this little guy has a broken bone. I don't know how he got a broken bone.
Damn, that's fucked. Alright, hold on, I'll be right back. I gotta let him out.
Okay. But so Yetu's Amaba stops her from taking all of these memories back, and you know, says like there has to be a way for us to share them, for us all to be able to hold pieces of the memories so that one person isn't overwhelmed by them. And so they do like through like with Yetu and Amaba and Nenenyo's help, they are able to like kind of rein in the Wajinru and like help them find a balance of like holding these memories but also being present in like the here and now. And they transition into this period of like all of the Wajinru holding pieces of the memories of the ancestors. And I think it's really interesting because I don't remember the exact conversation, but I know that towards the end there is a conversation between Yetu and her Amaba about some of the memories. And how like Yetu always viewed them a certain way, but after speaking to Amaba about some of them, like realizes that her interpretation of that memory may not be, you know, 100% correct.
Yes, because she was trying. It was when they, if I'm remembering correctly, it's when she's trying to get information about
sorry, what?
About the comb.
Yes.
Is that what you're talking about?
I feel like it was about
Oh,
like
no, it's the nope, I found it. Because she's wondering about what it's like to be in the womb. And then she says, is it possible you have had of such a thing but have forgotten it? And it's like, do you have memories of darkness? Of course, of loneliness. Yes. All I'm saying, set him up, that there is very little difference between a born Wajinru pup and one still encased in. What if some of your rememberings of dark loneliness as a pup were you inside a belly and it was hardly distinguishable, floating in the deep? It is all waters.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so they like have this conversation and like I said, like it kind of makes Yetu realize like, oh, my interpretations of the memories may not be, you know, the like 100% accurate interpretation of it. Which, as someone who is very interested in history, I find that so fascinating because one of the things that I try to be like very aware of when I'm learning about history is that the people who write history are usually the like oppressors, right? Like,
yep.
Most of US history that we learn in school is written by white people. So like you have to take most of it, all of it, with a grain of salt. And like recognize that um it's not, like just because we have like an idea of what a certain time in history was like does not mean that like that is 100% accurate end all be all of like what that historical moment was.
Yep. By the
Um,
way,
yeah.
is he by you?
No, I think he's in the bedroom.
Okay.
Hold on. We're gonna take a quick break because I need to check on the dog, and also I think the rice is done. So,
Okay.
um, we shall be right back. Okay, we're back. Thank you for bearing with us. I had to get to dinner. Okay.
Dinner.
Dinner? Tomorrow?
Tomorrow. Me.
Yay! Can I not travel there? Why is that? Okay. Let's go here, I guess. So, where were we? Yetu had the Wizhinru have found a way to share the memories.
Yep.
And after like a conversation with Amaba, like Yetu's like seeing some of the memories through a new light. And then Yetu realizes that she like essentially Yetu decides to go back to Ori and like, you know, be like, hey, I care about you. I don't want to like be away from you or whatever.
Important thing missed.
What did I miss?
She talks to, when she's talking to her Amaba, she like, you know, mentions the comb.
Mm-hmm.
And like how like the comb is like that Ori comes from the same place that the object, like that comb comes from.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Sorry. I'm eating dinner.
No, you're good. And then like the song, Lucas, I swear to fucking God. That the location of this place comes from a song. And that's how she figures out where to go.
Oh, okay, yeah. That's how she remembers where to find Ori.
Yes.
Okay. But so she does go back to find Ori. And I don't remember how exactly they do it, but like it ends with like Ori being able to breathe underwater. And like she doesn't transform to like look like the Wizhinru, but she can like exist underwater.
She basically drowns.
I mean, but she lives.
Yeah, but that's how you do it. She sinks.
Okay, yeah. But yeah, so then, you know, they live happily ever after.
Kind of. Yeah.
Kind of. Am I forgetting anything else?
Please hold. He is sending. Can you get over here? Come on. Come on. Nope, too late. I got you. You're getting locked in here. There you go. You're getting blocked in. Nope, you can't get down.
You've lost floor privileges.
He absolutely has lost floor privileges. Yep. Okay. I'm back. I mean, right, like I think that is pretty much the synopsis of the book.
Mm-hmm.
There's certain things in the book that are like I think like they're important, but like they're important like within context, not necessarily as a whole book, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
Why are you trying to run away? Stop. You have a fractured bone.
damn.
Air jail. More like couch jail. Where's the kitchen? There it is.
Because like there are parts like within
Mm-hmm.
the stuff with Yetu
Yes.
and Ori, like there's
Mm-hmm.
a lot of stuff there. But I think those are things that can be brought up in discussion.
Okay. Yeah. So it ends with them living happily ever after. At least that's what my brain has decided it is, right? Why are you angry?
I mean, it's basically the ending that Zoe didn't get.
Yeah. And so that was like kind of the thing that I do find it interesting that like, you know, we do see Zoti and Watch like kind of meet and like help each other out, and then they don't, like, they get this like really unsatisfactory like just they're, like Waj returns and like doesn't, let Zoti follow her. And then we get to see Yetu and Ori, and they like do kind of find a way to be together. And like kind of back to what Water said of like we each must be where we belong, like they belong with each other. But I also like, I think it's really interesting to sort of think about the differences in how Ori and Yetu view like history and traditions.
Yeah. I will also like the parallels of Yetu and Zoti both finding people from this very specific place, because it is also like the language of this song that tells her where to find is the same language that Watch spoke. And so then like that kind of parallel of like, this isn't, she didn't get this. They somehow made it work, and where they belong is in the deep.
But I do think that like I think that this idea of like memories and like history of a people is, that is something that was taken away from the slaves stolen from Africa, right? Like a lot of descendants in America now, like they don't have the same kind, like, like I think there is this like kind of stereotype of like, oh, white people being like, oh, I'm this percent German, this percent Polish, like yada yada whatever. And like, yeah, as a white person you do get to have that. Like as a white person in America you do get to have that. And a lot of people of color in America had that taken away from them. They don't they don't get to know like what that ancestry is. And you know, like the whole like ancestry.com and like, you know, 23andme like testing, like there's issues with that. And it can only tell you so much, right? And so like I think that like Ori's sort of desire to have that connection is, you know, a very real like experience of a lot of people. And like, but at the same time, like Yetu didn't really get a choice.
Yeah.
In being the one to like hold those memories.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kameko just in response to the whole like 23andme, like they don't even work properly for most white people. Like they don't. Like and it's like it's a misrepresentation. My ancestry updated and took away all my Spain, the country I can literally trace my yeah. So like I will say like it is a misrepresentation of what the test actually is. Because what they're doing, like when you do like the actual like DNA testing, like they're testing your mitochondrial DNA, which is passed from mother to child. Sorry, you have triggered the biological anthropologist in me.
Yeah, well,
and are getting
book club is over.
But so anyway, like that test, it's basically telling you like the percentages are like this percentage chance that like this percentage chance that you come from this area, right? It's not even saying like your DNA is this percent, this ethnicity or anything like that, because they really can't tell that, because the differences in like human DNA are so minuscule, like between ethnicities, that it's just not like, it's not something that they can like reliably tell. Sorry, again, triggered by special interest brain. But so yeah, all that to say, like, these tests are not reliable. They're not really representing themselves for what they really are. And so, you know, people that aren't able to trace back their ancestors through, you know, historical documents or like family stories or things like that, like there's no real like recourse for them to find out this information like 100% reliably. You know what I mean? Like there might be like a vague idea of like most slaves were taken from the western coast of Africa. So like in all likelihood, like you are from, but even that is a very wide range, right? Like Africa is a huge continent. So it's something that I think a lot of people struggle with and like long for that connection to and you know, ancestors and tradition and things like that. And I think that's sort of what Ori kind of represents in this story. But I think there is also this like longing to live in the moment and forget the hardships of um like I think a lot of white people like to gloss over slavery, and oh, it wasn't like that big of a deal, and it was like people treated their slaves well. It's like, no, they didn't. They owned them. That's not, I don't care. They owned them. That's awful. But this, I think, one of the things that I thought of a lot when I was reading this is the idea of generational trauma.
Yeah.
And I think it's really interesting because, like, just removing those, like, memories of, like, the traumas of your past does, in a way, sort of, like, remove this possibility of generational trauma, because, like, if I as a parent don't remember that trauma, I can't pass it on to my children, right?
Yeah, no, the generational trauma just happens between the historians.
Mm-hmm. But I lost my train of thought. I know that you had some stuff that you had, like, kind of earmarked that you wanted to talk about, so we can talk about those things.
I mean, I feel like they're kind of all over the place, so if you wanted to kind of just focus on this, that's totally fair.
My brain is all over the place, so
that's fair. But no, I think it's, the whole idea of generational trauma with this is very, like, interesting, because, like, that is just, like, the thing is, like, they don't remember things, but also they do, because like, you have a thought of what the remembrance is. You know what the remembrance is. You know that it happens every year, and you know that it is these, like, awful things that you only get to experience once. So you technically know, and yet you're still allowing only one, like, yeah, you don't understand the full truth of it, but you're still allowing, because they only experience it for like a day or however long. I think it's like 3 days.
Yeah, I think it's usually like 3 days.
3 days they get that, like, respite, and then, like, or respite, whatever, and then they have to take those memories back. But it's still, to an extent, like, you are still, like, not really, but you still are doing that, because you, to an extent, do remember those things. And, like, and they talk about this, like, longing for those too.
Yeah.
Like the remembrance is a longing for that, those memories and that ancestry.
Yeah, that knowledge of, like, where they've come from.
Like, and they crave that. Like, at one point, like, I think, like, either her Amaba or, like, someone, like, calls it, like, a cavity. There's something missing. And so, there's still just, like, I think it's, like, it's still there, and I think it's interesting that it's like, oh, there's certain, like, they talk about how, like, they don't retain these memories, but it's like, to an extent you do. To an extent you are remembering these things, like,
yeah,
and, like, I guess this is just me thinking too deeply into it, but it's like, how do you remember who your Amaba is?
No, yeah, I think you're right. I think and the way that I kind of, like, interpreted it from the book is that, like, these memories, like, they don't stay as memories, but they get transformed into these, like, instincts.
Yeah.
And it's, like, that kind of thing that you just kind of, like, know in your bones, but you can't, like, grasp a, like, what's the word I'm trying to think of? Like a specific instance that you remember of it. It's just, like, a thing that you know.
Yeah. But yeah, so a lot of the things that I marked in the book were just some like areas that I just found like interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but like, you know, while reading it, I think the whole like moment with very is very interesting
Mm-hmm.
because she doesn't have anything.
Mm-hmm.
But Yetu has been carrying the burden of all of this her entire life,
Mm-hmm.
and like, and I think it's very, I think for me it was very, I guess, easy to just be like, okay, like you really just don't get this, and like it took a minute to just be like, she doesn't have that, but like because you get the book from Yetu's perspective the entire
Mm-hmm.
time, like it's kind of hard to just be like, to not just be like, brother, you don't get it.
Mm-hmm.
Because like it's one thing like on a very real like level, right? Like people don't retain, and I guess honestly, like thinking about it now, it is a very neurodivergent thing. At least for me, like when
Mm-hmm.
I like retaining certain memories and certain like events
Yeah.
leave a feeling behind that is so powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be very just like draining and very just like it affects me personally, right? Like I can't speak for like everybody, but like it does affect me, like certain things that have happened.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm talking about on not even a personal level, but just like a historical
Mm-hmm.
like level, right? Like those things are things that excuse me, tend to just like they do have an effect.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I can, but I kind of derail. But one of the things that at the beginning when she's like, she's not feeling good, and it's like, but we want this remembrance, right? We want these things. And her Amaba says, they don't care if you are strong, only
Mm-hmm.
that you remember.
Yeah.
And like that, and then like another part, she's like, oh, was this pain real? It didn't even belong to her. Was there anything about her that wasn't a performance for others' gratification?
Mm-hmm.
And again, like I think like because of that, like it's very easy kind of just take Yetu's side on this and just, like, brother, you don't get
Yeah.
it. Right. But like, those were like scenes that I was like, damn, like that, especially that first one. She's like, they don't care if you're,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, but you don't want to do the work, on a very like realistic, again, very realistic level. Not
Mm-hmm.
just as like, if somebody experiences something and they don't want to remember, it's like, oh, but I only want to talk about it when it benefits me.
Yeah.
And it's like, you don't get to do that. You don't get to just be like, no, like, let's rehash trauma now when I'm good for it. And it's like,
Yeah.
no, I've been experiencing this like constantly. You
Mm-hmm.
don't get to decide when we just like hash this out when you didn't want to be a part of this
Mm-hmm.
from the very beginning.
Yeah,
Like
definitely.
y'all just forced this on me, and then you didn't want any part of it, and you refused to understand where, and using the excuse, like of like, I think, because I think it becomes kind of an excuse of like, I don't remember. But it's like, but there are certain things that you do remember.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe this is just the way that I took it, right? Like maybe this was just my understanding of how it, of what I read and listened to. But I'm like, you are choosing what to like retain,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, no,
Um,
for sure.
where is, okay, hold on. That, let's see. Oh, and then she talks about, okay, this talking about Basha, and like, talk like going back to what I was saying about kind of like a very neurodivergent thing that like I experienced, and I think I attribute it to that, is
Mm-hmm.
the way that I experience like emotions from memories. And she talks about in a part here, um oh, I think this is when they're doing yes, when they're doing the remembrance, she's like giving the last memories, which is
Mhm.
Basha's.
Yes.
And she talks about how he was so much braver and he suffered more in his lifetime than she ever would, but he never let the remembering steal so much of his power and his strength. He let them ignite him. And I think that like knowing what we do after the like rememberings and like the chapter about him,
Mhm.
I think it's very interesting that she's like, oh, they made him so much stronger, when I really do think that they made him very sad and angry,
Yeah.
you know. And I think like going back to like her interpreting the memory
Mhm.
in certain ways, like interpreting those memories as like, oh, these are the things that like he experienced and like he was just so powerful, things. And it's like, but she also does recognize that like you know he did go through something. And I really wish they had like kind of gone into that of he did like struggle with, because they do imply that like he a war and like he was just always so like angry and craved violence. And it's like, but
Mhm.
what was the reason for that? And I
Right.
and and I like to, I think it's just the rememberings, right? Like those memories, they do that, right? Because like I think for Zoti, they made her very like empathetic, but to the point that it was detrimental
Mhm.
to not only her, but like it just not detrimental. What's the word? Um, I can only think of the word just. I don't know if like if you'll get the word that I'm trying to get at. Of like, you didn't let other people make that decision. You took that decision away from them. Like, do you want to experience these things, and do you want to,
Yeah.
she became so like, no, I don't want them to be sad. And it's like, well, you took that choice from them.
Right.
And then I don't they don't really talk about Aj. I think that would be very interesting because like Aj is the second historian, and I don't know if there is one between him and Basha, because the way that I understood it, Basha was the third,
Mhm.
but maybe there was a different historian. And I would love to like have known what Aj experienced, like what was his, because like I think for Basha, he let those memories make him bitter.
Mhm.
And then for Yetu, she just was so consumed by them,
Yeah.
which I think is something that like I personally experience. I think like I can get sucked into those things and just kind of like constantly feel those things.
Mhm.
And like thinking about it, I'm like, damn, like that, like. But but I think it would be so interesting to like see what the rememberings did to them,
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah.
Um uh, oh yeah, and then this is, so the other thing that I marked was you mentioned this when you were talking about like, when you were talking about the book, we're yet to, she's talking to Uri and she's like, I am who I am now. Like I am a person now because I don't have the past of my people like weighing me down.
Mhm.
It's like when you're everyone in the past and when you're everyone present, it's like I didn't exist.
Yeah.
And like it's so, I don't know, like I think like a lot of the yet to says
Mhm.
are very I don't know, I try to like put them to like on a very like real world level of like
Mhm.
that kind of, I think it's hard to like put it on that like kind of like larger perspective rather than like a very singular, like I can't imagine as like because like I don't know. I try to think of like the LGBT community, right?
Mhm.
Like we all try to remember we we remember and we recognize the struggle and the history.
Mhm.
Like, but there is no one person that's just like holding on to all of that.
Right.
And so it's so hard to just like even imagine like
Yeah.
someone like I don't even know. It's like it's so like but like then on a very like that like sentence of like when you are when you're for everyone in in the present, when you're everyone in the past, and like that on a very like singular level, like with parents,
Mhm.
they shape you based on their past, or they try to shape you based on their past, and then they try to make you as like palatable, I guess,
Yeah.
for everyone now.
Mhm.
And then when that doesn't work out, it's like
I am
then you weren't
switching
doing
games,
something
by
right.
the way.
Oh yeah. Okay. And then yeah, this is we did kind of touch on this. And like okay, so then like here again like it's very just like it's very confusing to me about like people just choosing what to remember or like not. It's just you good?
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay. No, you're good. You're good. I was just like, oh. But no, she's like she's talking to her amaba and she's like her amaba says, "What about the remembering could be and then she tells her that it's dying. And then she like talks about how she was like these three boys in the moments before their deaths.
Mhm.
And then her amaba's like, "Why are you telling me these things?" It's like and then she's like they're not true.
Mhm.
And it's like but
So that is another thing that I find very interesting because I feel like it is sort of a recurring thing in the book of this idea that like the memories that are being told when it's not during the remembrance aren't true. Right? Like we see it with Basha trying to tell
yes,
the
yeah,
council people like, "Hey, this is what's going on." And they're like, "No, you're lying."
yeah.
And then like, with Yetu trying to be like, "This is what happened," and Amaba just being like, "It's not true."
Mm-hmm.
Like this instinct, I guess, to say like, "Oh, this thing is so awful and painful that like I don't want to accept into my worldview that it is
Yeah.
in fact true."
Mm-hmm.
And like I don't know, I do think that like there is a part of that like it's very like it's something that I feel like happens a lot in like our society every day. Like people don't like there are people who deny that the Holocaust happened.
Yeah.
Like there are
Mm-hmm.
people that just outright deny pieces of history. And like I think for me it's this like it's such a terrible thing to do because like you're telling someone that their suffering isn't real,
Yeah.
right? Like you're taking that away from them. But also, when you don't learn history and recognize how these things happened in the past, like you are going to repeat them.
Yeah.
Like it's really interesting too because I feel like we all acknowledge that we learn from our mistakes, right? Like, mistakes are how you learn. And yet, nobody wants to look at the mistakes, like, on a large scale mistakes of the past
Hmm.
and learn how to be better humans.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's just a really interesting thing. Like, I was really interested in, like, the way that, like, it was a recurring thing. And at least with the Wajinru, it's like they don't have these memories. Like, they don't have the ability to keep these memories at this point.
Yeah.
So, like, okay, fair. But, like, with humans, you fully
Okay,
have
but
the ability to
but they
remember
do,
these things.
right? Okay, but they do though. Because going back to the question that I asked, is the historian the only person who can take those memories?
Hmm.
And if the answer is no, they still know that the rememberings happen. They still know.
Yes.
And so
But,
you're still actively choosing not to keep that.
well, okay, yes, but also, like, with the remembrances, like, it is a part of the remembrance normally for the historian to take all of those memories back.
Yes, yes. But my point still stands of if you have the ability to have those memories, you are still choosing to not have them. Does that do you see where I'm like they're still choosing not to have these awful memories
Hmm. I
and
mean,
live it like because they still recognize what the remembrance is, like they still. And like again, maybe this was just like the way that I interpreted this and like my understanding of like it, but I'm like, you're still. I feel like a lot of this is very much a choice, and it isn't until Yetu leaves them to like
hmm.
their own devices that they're just like, okay, maybe what we've been doing hasn't been great.
I mean, okay, that's fair. But I will say, like, for me, the idea of them, like they, like, yes, they know what the remembrance is and they know that they do it every year. But again, like, the way that I was interpreting that was very much like it's an instinct. The way that, like, animals know, like, we go to this place, and,
Mm-hmm.
like, we, like, with, like, whales, like, the way that they know they migrate to these areas for
Mm-hmm.
food and these areas for, like, mating is the same way that, like, the Wajinru know they go and do these remembrances every year. Of, like, they don't actively remember, like, hey, we have to go do the remembrance now. It's like a in their bones, just like, we are going to this place for an event, like, where we have to do this
Mm-hmm.
type of thing. And I could be wrong. And I do also think, like, we don't really get to see another Wajinru's perspective. Like, yes, we sort of get, like, the things that Amaba says, but, like, it's still through Yetu's perspective.
Yeah.
And so I think, like, I don't feel like we fully get to understand what the other Wajinru's experiences are.
No, for sure. I will recognize that. But I also think that like I guess like for me it's just doesn't make sense. Like, and I think you kind of said this of like people not wanting to acknowledge or remember these awful things that happen. And that doesn't make sense to me, because if somebody tells me something,
Sorry, you cut out.
oh, sorry, that like if somebody were to say that, she's like, she immediately said, why are you telling me this? It's like, well, you asked, first of all.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I wouldn't just be pulling this out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And she refuses to believe that, and I think that's what really just solidifies the fact that they are actively making the choice to not want to remember these things,
Mm-hmm.
and to kind of sacrifice Yetu at that point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So that's fair. Um, but I do think also like there is this tendency, I guess, to like for most people. And again, I think this is sort of where the neurodivergence comes in of
Yeah.
like why. Um, but there is this tendency, I think, of most people to go along with tradition and like the
Yeah.
way, like the status quo of like that's just how we've
Hmm.
always done it.
Yeah.
And so like ultimately Zoti is the one that made this choice for all of them.
Yes.
Like Zoti said, this is a horrible thing. I don't want to burden anybody else with it. I'm not going to let anyone else remember it.
Yeah.
And like not only like not tell them, but also like encourage them to forget traumatic things that have happened to them and help them forget when they struggle to do so.
Hmm.
So like it really is her decision that like kind of created the world that we see Yetu existing in. And like I'm not saying that like people can't like, you know, make their own choices to like go against that status quo, but
Hmm.
I I do think it is a very like neurodivergent thing to be like no, you should always question like everything and like we don't go with the status quo and like why would you
Yeah.
do that type of thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, that's fair. Yeah. I don't remember why I marked. Mm. So Bosch's chapter, I don't really know what I want to say about this.
Mhm.
But I did mark it. Um, but it it starts out um with, they're in the remembrance. It's like we
Mhm.
all starve, unable to nurture our bodies. Our bodies wane, but our minds swell with pains too large to contain.
Mhm.
Such imbalances cannot last.
Yeah.
And like that, I like obviously rereading it, I'm, oh, like he's talking about like that moment, right? Like the like what's gonna happen in this chapter, right? But like for me, it kind of like solidified the historians, like this is not sustainable.
Mhm.
And then the next paragraph is, he calls her foolish Soti, to think there is ever a way to guard against harm, to protect prosperity.
Mhm.
Everything ends how she would cry to know what became of her legacy. We Wajin relives live Zoti's ignorant life for centuries, convince our castles in the deep can shield us.
Mhm.
And again, I think a lot of these things is just very much what happens in this, not just, but like, I think it on a, larger scale, like it is kind of talking about like historians, like just the fact that they have to, the historians themselves, not even just like people, like
Mhm.
all of the Wajinru, but like the historians themselves, like do live her lie,
Yeah.
just like You can't tell anybody.
Yeah.
But this is said, actually, rereading it, it's not said by Basha,
Mm.
because when we die, it is where we remain. Therefore, we nurture it as it has nurtured us. We bring life to it as it has brought life to us. This is our covenant maintained for years until we are Basha.
Until what?
Until we are Basha.
Oh, yes. Okay.
So that is very much from a different historian.
Well, so is it from a or is it because like I so and I think this is why I struggled following the book like
Mm-hmm.
fully is because like these chapters where you are like looking at the history,
Mm-hmm.
like you very much I feel like are supposed to be in the remembrance. And that's why it's using like that collective pronoun of like we are all experiencing, like we all the Wajinru right now are
Yeah.
experiencing these things. And so it's like I'm unclear if that was said by another historian or if that was like the collective during this remembrance.
I mean, yes, but it has to have been said by someone else. Like those thoughts, because you are in the remembrance, they are not the thoughts of like the Wajinru currently. They are the thoughts of the past. You know?
But it's
Like, cause like, and like I could be wrong, I guess, like when in the Zoti chapter, she does like she does like talk
mhm.
about like how strange we would have looked, and then it's like until one day we are Zoti. But like again, I think like the memories prior to that are from a different perspective, and then everything after that is Zoti's perspective and Basha's perspective.
Mhm.
And like and that's just the way that I took it. Because like again, like especially that sentence, this is our covenant maintained for years until we are Basha. So this covenant and this thing that you are experiencing right now predates Basha. So therefore it has to have been another Wajinru. Not necessarily another historian, because they can't take the memories from other Wajinru.
Mhm.
You know?
Yeah. I
Hmm.
I don't know. I think like cuz my understanding of like the collective again, like it's like we're in the remembering and so
Mm-hmm.
it's like those like yes, you are experiencing the memories and it's like you're not present, but it's cuz the way that like Yetu talks about like her experience of the memories as she like when we like when she interacts with the comb and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
she does fully become that like she is living in that child and
Yeah.
like she like she says she ceases to exist but she is still she is still experiencing those things and having thoughts of her own
Mm-hmm.
in addition to like the child's like thoughts and feelings, you know what I mean? And so like I took it more as like the current Wajinru's like narrative around the remembrance. Not so much like a previous historian feeling that way, but like the current Wajinru as they're experiencing this, like what are they
Mm.
like interpreting it as?
Mm. I see what you're saying.
And that may not
No,
be
no,
how
no.
it was meant to be taken.
No. I get that.
Um, but I mean, like
Yeah.
clearly Yetu has like that kind of thought process. And so like I don't think it's you know
You see,
so
like,
far out to expect that one of the previous historians felt that way too,
yeah. No, I just like for me it was very I didn't think about it and it is still kind of hard for me to like I think you might be correct, especially because like now that in mind I'm like okay, yes, like the endless madness of the remembrance. Like they are like how long has it been tonight?
Mhm.
It is what's happening right now. That's not how I took it because when I was reading this, I was like, "Oh, these are just snippets of history,
Mhm.
not that the Wajinru were experiencing it." So like
Yeah.
interesting that like you went there first and like that's not um but like and like I think like for me it's like again that much harder to believe because at this point like and I don't know like I guess it's just like it's so hard for me to just be like okay, how did you not notice this? How did you
For like the other Wajinru.
yeah, because they're just like oh foolish Zoti, like this can't like
Mhm.
this imbalance cannot last, like
Yeah.
you know, so clearly if we're gonna take like what you're saying, right, like that this is the collective and what they're experiencing, right, before or like you know that's kind of the collective of they're all like kind of thinking
Mhm.
based on these and then they kind of get thrown into Basha's memory.
Yeah.
That's still super fucked up, like
Well,
brother,
so
like
yes.
you are now just being like oh man yeah this fucking sucks and it's
Mhm.
like really now that's when you you
Yeah,
know
no, I 100% agree with you. I do think though that that brings up an interesting point of the remembrances used to be performance, like songs and like performances and Yetu even says this like this like attempt to make some beauty out of these horrible
mhm
tragedies.
mhm
And so I think it's entirely possible that before Basha, like the remembrances were not a full like experience of these memories by the other people.
mm.
Like before Basha, it seems like it was very much like a performance for the rest of the Wajinru.
I mean, did Basha like do them as like the way that Yetu is doing them?
I thought Yetsu said that Basha changed how
Okay,
they did
I
them.
might
I could
just
be
okay.
wrong, but I thought that she said that at one point.
Okay.
Um like and I think even with Basha, he what like because with when you have a historian there, their job is to guide the Wishinru through the memories. And and so I think that like in the past the remembrances have never been like a full like chaotic experience of ancestors' memories. I think it has been like a guided kind of like
Mm-hmm.
walk through history.
Mm. Yeah.
But
Okay.
without Yetu there, they don't have anyone to like guide them through this. They're just experiencing all of these things.
Yeah.
And and so like while I, totally agree with you that like if this is like even a fraction of this is what past remembrances have been, like how did these other people not recognize the like burden that was placed on the historian.
Yeah, I mean, like even so, like going back to like one of the things that I mentioned earlier when she was like, "Is this pain real?" It didn't
Mhm.
even belong to her.
Mhm.
That's during the remembering. That's her giving those memories.
Mhm.
And then she says, as or not, well, she doesn't say it because it's third person. As Yetu's body moved with the pain, her subjects moved too. They didn't quite copy her. That would imply that they could see anything but the black, the deep, the sea. They felt her and knew what to do.
Mhm.
And it's like, okay, well, if you felt that, like again, you are in this and you're feeling this,
Mhm.
and yet you choose to not.
Mhm.
To not like, and honestly, I think like my biggest like issue with this, and like in reality too, is that you don't acknowledge, people don't acknowledge the pain.
Mhm.
And it's like, you may not understand it. You don't have to, I'm not asking you to live it, but you need to acknowledge it.
Yeah.
You need to, you need to realize that that's there, like that it's been there, and
Yeah.
people still experience, minorities still experience it to a degree.
Yes. 100%.
But
Um
like, but like interesting. I didn't, that kind of gives some of the beginning parts of the, because I think like the beginning part is like what really makes a difference of those two chapters
mhm.
of both Zoti's and Basha's.
Yeah.
I really wish they had included one of Aj. I really do.
I know. I listen. I understand that like and because in the afterword they sort of talk about this of like the original discography of Drexia like very much left spaces for you to fill in
Yeah.
the like world. You know, like they sort of came up with this idea for the mythology, but it was very vague. And so like you as the listener were having to build out this world.
Mm-hmm.
Um and I think that like, you know, with Clipping's song and this book, I think they've tried to keep that like
Mm-hmm. No, yeah.
value of like it is a collaborative creation. And so it very much is like we are leaving space for you to fill in what has happened. Um which I think is a really cool like facet of this story. But at the same time, I am the kind of person
I'm like, I need more
that
lore.
wants all of the information and
Me,
all
I'm
of the
like, I
lore.
need, yeah. I'm like, I need all the lore. I need all the information. Give me everything. And like, I think having also what Drexia like what they are now building off of what Drexia created, having it be this collective, like
Mhm.
really does kind of really just like connect with the like Wajinru,
Mhm.
being like towards the end, just having be it this collective and sharing these things, and no one person has all of the things. So you
Mhm.
have to, everybody has their own interpretation of that history and that lore, basically,
Yeah.
and I think like I love that, like it is what is happening, like that is what the reality is, like for us, of like looking at all of these created from
Mhm.
Drexia's concept, but it's also within the story itself, it's all there,
Yeah.
like as the like collaborative in the community.
Yes. I think it's super cool. I like like honestly the whole thing I cannot recommend this book enough. Like I it's a
It's
great book. If you like yes, okay, we're going to preface like there are obviously like some heavy topics. Like
yeah.
the basis of this book is what if the women thrown overboard from slave ships gave birth to, babies that didn't need to breathe air? So, like, obviously, like, it's gonna be touching on some heavy topics. And, like, I encourage you, if you're interested in the book, read the trigger warning, like, search up if there like trigger warnings for this, and like make sure you're good. But like, it is a great book. And I also like, the song by Clipping is great. I really enjoyed it. And the music from Drexia that I did listen to is also, I think, really good. I do know that like music is a very like subjective thing. Obviously, like the stuff I like is not going to be what everybody else likes. But yeah, I mean, go listen to it. It's good. And read the book. And I think like it does. I think what I love about it too is that it leaves open this space for content to continue.
Yeah.
And in the afterword, they talk about how like nothing is canon, right? Like the idea of canon is completely against the concept of what they're doing here. Like the idea of canon, and that like there is one thing that is like the correct interpretation of something or whatever, like is against the collaborative nature of this story. And so like with that in mind, I think it's really, I really hope that we get to see more like media and content within this world.
Yeah. Honestly. So I need to know more about the other historians.
Of course.
I need to know if like it's just like Aj, Basha, and then Yetu, or if there's others in between. I need to know about the whales.
Yes.
I need to know about the whales.
Also, like, what kind of whales were they? They just say
Yeah.
whales. There's no like what kind of.
Yeah.
You give me frilled shark, but you
Yeah.
don't tell me what kind of whale it is.
Yeah.
Is it a blue whale? What is it?
I think at one point they do describe some like they do mention whales, but like when it comes to like the ones with the Zoti, like the Zoti Aleyu, like what kind of whales are these? And especially the one which like, oh man, I like we didn't really like talk about it because like again it's not like necessarily super important within wait a minute. Oh no. Where is it? Yeah, this no. They find it's like one of the first ones that they find when they decide to go find their history, like where they come from. And there's a 7-year-old taken in by fin whales.
Okay.
And it's blind and deaf, and they like decide to stay with the whales. And that's like and the whole point of that is that like Zoti is like that's what they know right now, but one day they'll want to know more, and we need to create that place that they can find, right? Like that's the whole point of that. But for me, I'm like, more information on that, please.
Yeah,
like,
right.
I'm like, go into more detail about this specific like Zoti. Like, come on.
I would
like,
also just love like a
genre.
cozy little like, like day in the life type story of Yetu and Ori after the events of the deep. Like,
honestly, like it's so good. And like definitely like you even rereading it again,
Yeah.
it's still just as powerful. Even, but like yeah, like I just like I want more lore on these like are they all fin whales? Like it's like because they talk about like them being like the Zoti like are no, or the Wajinru at this point.
Mhm.
The Wajinru don't like all stay in one place.
Yeah.
Like they're all just separated and like they're all over the place. And I'm like, okay, so they would each know different types of whales.
Yeah.
Like
But
my
I will
special
say, like,
interest.
I am I am curious cuz
Hmm.
like it seemed like there was a point in their history where they did all live kind
Hmm.
of together and like in
Yeah.
a centralized place.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious as to what happened that like spurred that change from a like
I
close
mean,
knit like civil like city type thing
all
to
right.
these like very spread out like pockets, you know?
No. Yeah. No. Don't get down. Sorry.
I was like, me no, what?
No. Come here. Honestly, like on the story, based on the story, I would say that it was Basha.
Mhm.
Like I would say that it was that like especially with like trying to protect them, it would make sense that like when they started finding the Wajinru and trying to
Mhm.
hunt them down because at that point they killed so many of them, which is why Basha took it upon himself to be like, well, yeah, I'm gonna kill y'all.
Yeah. Did
Like
something get bigger?
I can absolutely see where at that point they would have as a collective been like, okay, well we can't all stay in one place or they're
Right.
gonna kill us all off.
Yeah.
Like we must migrate. And then from then on, but like that, like they don't talk about because like in that like part, he does like, oh no, this is like too far, like this is only our first so clearly it wasn't the only time. And it's also like Yetu at 14 was there when he died
Mhm.
because she took his memories as he was dying.
Yeah.
And so like
Or like
I
shortly after he died.
huh?
I said, or like shortly, because she talks about like harvesting memories from the body. So like I'm unclear as to whether the historian like gives the next historian the memories before they die, or if it's like a
I
ritual after they die. Like,
I think it's before they die
okay.
because Zoti gives it
Mm-hmm.
before they die, and there is in I want to say Zoti's chapter on Bird and they could do the no, this is still yet to talking about she feels after she all fucking Wajinru. Where is it? She huh. There is a point where she like reaches for someone.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, we were able to take their memories before we couldn't, basically.
Mm.
And now I am unsure of where I saw that. Um hmm.
So when like we first meet Nanenyo,
Mm-hmm.
He was the one Yetu was to inform about the next historian when she discovered who might be capable of taking on the task, and he was the one who'd facilitate the harvesting of memories from Yetu to her successor when the time came.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, when they talk, like, when she talks about, like, if she had died with the sharks, then the next historian wouldn't have been able to harvest the memories
Yeah.
from her body.
Yeah. So I think they have to be. I think they have to be alive.
But, like, she said, well, okay, yeah. I don't know, just the way that it sounded was like, because it sounded like they could, like, possibly find her corpse to harvest memories from.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Hmm.
Maybe I was just reading it weird.
No, I mean like that could make sense because I think like with like I just there is a part where I would have sworn that they like
It also, thinking about it now, like, it talks about how, like, Yasha was
Basha.
so. Or, sorry, Basha. Yasha. Basha was so excited when he, like, realized how sensitive to, like, the electric forces um Yetu was, that, like, he didn't really notice um the, like, her temperament or whatever. And, like, it makes me wonder now, thinking about it, if he was just, like, so ready to be done as the
Yeah.
historian
Yeah.
that, like, once he found her, he was like, great, I have somebody. I don't care. I don't care if
Mm-hmm.
it's, like, you know, like, her temperament's not right. I don't care about anything. Like, she has the ability to do it, and so I can be done.
Yeah. Found it.
Okay, go.
It's the part when Basha, I thought it was in Zoti's, but it's in Basha's chapter. And he's talking and he's trying to explain to them like why this is important.
Mm-hmm.
And he's talking about this memory of this older Wajinru who gets caught up in a, oh god, in a backfin.
Mm.
And he says that she died in such agony that the historian felt it swimming towards her to capture her memories in time.
Mm.
And that's what really like I'm just like they have to be alive. So that's why I was like Yetu was there when Basha died, or at least like you know maybe not when he got like injured, but like
Yeah.
you know because like she does talk about like harvesting his like memories and stuff, and I don't think that like and maybe I misunderstood, but it didn't make it seem like it was something they were like, oh, it was like with Ninenyo, and we were like, it was like he was ready to like go. No, it's like he's gone.
Mm.
You know.
Yeah. That's
And I
fair.
don't remember where I was going with that.
I don't know, man.
I don't remember where I was trying to go with like them like harvest like that.
I don't know, man.
Whoops. But where was um but yeah, I going back to like Basha's like attitude of like, being like so ready to just like it would make sense that he would
Mm-hmm.
I want to just like be done with this.
Yeah.
Like but it's so there's like a couple of things that I like to like point out in his chapter.
Mm-hmm.
He um is like clueless what Jinru gossip as they wander the water. They would know the answer to this question if they lived beyond the bubble of Wajinru cities, if they listened to the things we had to say more than just when it was convenient.
Mhm.
We cannot understand a people that would willingly choose to cut itself off from its history no matter what pain it entailed.
Mhm.
And I'm just like, yeah, like that kind of like going, but you know, but he still doesn't do what Yetu does. But
Yeah.
he still like, but he himself is like, this doesn't make sense.
Mhm.
This doesn't. But like I think it's very interesting to see kind of like I guess what tradition has conditioned him
Mhm.
to be, because like he still has those like thoughts, and there's like another part where he's like, we have no interest in laws or customs. The Wajinru are in no position to tell us what to do. They do well not to ask anything of us and be grateful for what we occasionally choose to give them.
Mhm.
But yet again still follows the traditions of like,
Yeah.
so it's still just like that kind of um but the he does like, there are like moments when, and I wonder if like, thinking about it now, I wonder if this, like what I'm about to read, is kind of thoughts from another historian, because like I think like if we want to say that like Basha was like, oh, I'm so like done with this, and I'm so, I don't understand a people who don't want to know their history unless it's convenient for them.
Mhm.
I wonder how much of that transferred over to Yetu.
Mhm.
And I wonder how much of this was a transfer over to Basha from someone else. Because he says, we are hungry for blood. That is not untrue. We may well be mad too. We swim and swim until a remembering takes us to the. She saw a living, two legs thrown overboard. Um, we come out of the memory angrier than we were before. We cannot settle.
Mhm.
And like, I wonder how much of like that whole like, we may be mad, like this craving for like blood, that kind of anger,
Mhm.
like how much of that was just like also just another historian being done with carrying this burden for other people
Mhm.
that they don't want to even acknowledge.
Yeah. I
And
think
then like, hmm,
so. I think that is also like a really interesting aspect of this, and it kind of goes along with like Yetu's like idea that like she is getting lost and like losing herself because she has to make room for all these memories. Like
mm-hmm,
who we are as people is very much dependent on our experiences
mm-hmm,
and like the memories that we have. And so like how much of the historian and like who they are as a person is a result of other people's memories.
yeah,
Right? Like because we don't really get any like briefly Yetu talks about like her life before she became the historian, but like we don't really see like
yeah,
personalities for any of the historians before they are historians. I mean, obviously like Zoti, but like Zoti was the first historian. She didn't have anybody else's memories really
mm-hmm,
that she was holding. She was just taking the history.
yeah,
And so like how much does a person change when they become historian?
yeah, yeah. I love that we are having this conversation, because so like they're not things that I really thought about until like we had this, and I
Mhm.
think it's like so interesting. And like in this like part, I had marked this part um because I was like, oh, that's, this is very Basha, right? But
Mhm.
like I completely kind of now like ba-
Yeah.
because of like what we've talked about and kind of like your take on like these like this chapter being a remembering, not just
Mm-hmm.
like they're they say it's like as we near the surface doing we are not Basha anymore. It's like we are in every remembering at once. We are every Jinru. As one we make the ocean waters rising. Tidal lifts us high above land. And to me when I read that, oh, like this is the tidal wars, but it's like no, this is very much implying what's happening
Mm-hmm.
now,
Yeah.
but what I had marked was this does not, but the thing is like also this is the reason why like I didn't think it was that, because it goes on to say it's like this does not make us more gentle. It has the opposite effect. We send endless waves of salt water on flooding the whole earth. This is only our first assault. We
Mm-hmm.
remember. And so like I that kind of like I guess like it can be taken as like what's happening now, but also like then it can't be what's happening right now because they are kind of, but it also can be because they are stuck in those rememberings.
Mm-hmm.
So they're kind of just still like living both of like doing this, but also like they're just like, this is not our first assault. It's like, it's not, but like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's
Yeah.
just, I love the way that that like now that I'm rereading that because of like what you said, I'm like, oh, like interesting. Okay.
Okay. Sorry.
Damn.
It's almost 9 o'clock. Okay, I'm an old woman.
I mean, we pretty much like got through every single one that I marked.
Okay, cool. Um, but yeah. So again, I really enjoyed this book. And I really enjoyed the music that inspired it. Uh, cannot recommend it enough. Um, and I do, again, I want to say how important I think it is that we all, you know, take time to reflect on the past, um, and the world around us. We do not exist in a vacuum, um, and the current world as it is does not exist independent of our past. I think it's important that we, you know, look at our history and learn from it, and do our best to be better than our ancestors and even our past selves. Um, it is our responsibility to be the best people we can, and that means continually trying to improve. Um, Sorry to get kind of preachy, but um, it's just something that I think is really important. So I hope everyone has a good night. And I believe tomorrow Kameko will be streaming Paper Mario? Question mark.
Where's
Hold
the
on, let me
shit?
look real quick.
Oh, yeah, I was like,
Pull
where's
up
the
her
shit?
stream schedule. Yes, tomorrow at 7 p.m. Kameka will be streaming Paper Mario, so be sure to tune into that. And thank you again for joining us to do a deep dive into the deep. Good night, everybody.
Bye.